Welcome back to this edition of Grizzlies Daily. I'm your host, Melek, and this is the third time I'm recording this video, so bear with me. We're going to try to make it as quick as possible. And maybe there's a reason why it was the third time that I need to record this, because as I record this now, it literally just came in minutes ago that the Grizzlies are signing Alex Reese from the 76ers. If you don't know Alex Reese, that's Angel Reese's brother. He's signing a one-year deal with the Grizzlies. That's what sources around the league say. He averaged 5.3 points, 3.3 rebounds in 15 minutes for the Sixers last year. And I just got to be honest with y'all. I'm being serious. I don't. Well, actually, scratch that. The post I just read deleted the part where he's Angel Reese's brother. So that's not Angel Reese's brother. This is just somebody named Alex Reese. If I'm being honest, I don't know much about him. I see something right now that says he's a solid depth signing, brings energy off the bench and can stretch the floor for a bit. I don't really know much about Alex Reese. I mean, I'll do my research to see how good he is necessarily and what he can bring to the team. But other than that, just wanted to bring that to y'all real quick. But first topic of the day. Seeing this kind of trending for a bit, it was more so about people that can lead teams to championships. And Ja Morant came up as a person questioning if he can lead the Grizzlies to a title. And my thoughts on that are simply, I think with Ja Morant, because I know a lot of people, I know the specific video that I saw, they basically said Ja is a number 2 rather than a number 1. My thoughts on that, I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, I can see why you may say that, but I don't agree with it. Me personally, I think Ja can lead the team to a championship. He just has to have a championship roster around him. And if we're being honest, we can say a lot of things like, he hasn't had a championship. I think he hasn't had a championship roster since 21-22, and even then, that team exceeded expectations. But with the way teams were that year, I think as long as they got past the Warriors, we're talking a different ball game. We're talking about a team that definitely could have went all the way. That's my thoughts on that. But I mean, as far as leading the team to a championship, I think Ja Morant is capable of that. It literally just comes down to health and the players around him, which is usually the case for anybody who leads a team to a title. I mean, we could say the same thing about a guy like Trae Young. I mean, Trae Young's fairly healthy, but he hasn't had a championship level team around him. Giannis, for a good point, stayed healthy, didn't have a championship level team around him. A lot of these guys can lead their teams to championships. It's just about the players you have around them and what they can do. And a lot of these players also kind of had a consistent coach for a certain point, so that also plays a factor. So it's just a matter of the team around him. But I definitely do think Ja Morant is a player that can lead the Grizzlies to a championship, and I think the Grizzlies even know that. That's why they're very big on making sure the right pieces are around him, and that things can go into fruition for a championship to come to Memphis in whatever time period that may be. Hopefully, it does come in the next few years, but one can only hope, and I'm one of those people right there. But I think more so, if the Grizzlies want to necessarily compete for a championship, it all starts with having to win against top teams. I have it pulled up right here. Last year, the Grizzlies went 14-25 playing. By the looks of it, I'm looking at it right here. I have it written down in a pretty weird way, like literally just the numbers. With teams above 500 last year, that's the way I wrote it. With teams above 500 last year, the Grizzlies went 14-25. So, yeah, definitely starts right there. And I think ultimately it does play a factor. I mean, even in, we use a prime example, the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks were a team that at one point during the season, and we all remember, they couldn't be a contending team at all. Like, I think if a team was, if it not necessarily above 500, but if they were like a top 3, top 4 seed, the Knicks were not beating them. in the regular season at all, and it happened every time up until the playoffs when they played the Celtics. So, yeah, absolutely. I think absolutely the Grizzlies need to find a way to beat these top teams and find a way not to lose easy games because I think about a time period I think a lot about was that stretch of 4 games where the Grizzlies lost by basically 3 points or less, and it all came at the expense of a game-winning basket, whether it was the Aaron Fox, a Karis LeVert layup, or just literally anything that comes to mind. An OG Anunoby 3 against the Knicks. Like, a lot of these things come from, just not losing. I mean, not winning against the right teams and losing to the teams that you absolutely need to beat. So, I mean, we talk about health, but when it comes down to it, the Grizzlies let a lot of games that would easily slip from their fingers. And that's something that, we can boil it down to a bigger issue, but ultimately it really does come down to those kinds of things because even if you say if the Grizzlies win those 4 games that they lost by buzzer beater, we're talking a different ball game. They're a top 6 seed. They're playing a different team. So that's not really something they have to worry about when it comes to playing the Warriors in the play-in and potentially OKC in the first round. We're talking a different ball game. So what needs to be understood is those games that are gimmies should matter the most. Those games matter. The games against contenders matter more too. But you just have to really figure those things out. And if they don't, we're gonna see the team essentially be stuck in the same position that they were last year. But I did talk about consistent coaching. And Zach Edey will now have the league is unpredictable. Zach Edey will more than likely have a full year with his first full year with a coach, is what I'm trying to say. Obviously, he didn't finish the year with Taylor Jenkins because he got fired, and then Isolo stepped in. But I do think now, seeing what I saw, and we touched on this before, I think Zach Edey will benefit from the philosophy of Thomas Isolo. I mean, we all saw it. Once Isolo became the coach, 20-20 game. Well, not 20-20, but like 10-20. Like 20 rebound games from Zach Edey because Isolo understood where he needs to be on the floor in certain situations, especially defensively. Now, later in the year, teams did adjust to the fact that, Edey needs to come out of the paint, and they got him out of the paint. So that's something that later in the year definitely needs to get worked on. Another thing about Edey, he became a little passive of a defender because he got too afraid that he would get beat off the dribble, and that showed in many situations. Because of his fear, we saw multiple cases where Isaiah Hartenstein literally hit that same push floater. Like, he would start the game hitting about maybe 4 or 5 of those over Edey because of that fear. And it's just like that's something that definitely has to get worked on in the future, because if it doesn't, then you're not winning the games. You're simply not, because Edey's unplayable. You lose a spot in rebounding because Jaren Jackson Jr. isn't really the best rebounder. Brandon Clark is undersized. Santi Aldama, he can rebound, but how often? I mean, how long can you have him on the floor before something happens that he becomes a liability? So you really just have to think about those things. And obviously, I can't really say much about Jock Landale because I've never seen Jock Landale play with the Grizzlies. So it's just something to really keep in mind. But I definitely do think Zach Edey can have a year, and he can have a sophomore year where he not necessarily skyrockets, but he can definitely make some noise in the center position. And I think he can end the year being one of those players that is a top 15 player in his position. That's truly how I feel. I think he definitely can be in that way as long as the system fits him. And it's really just a matter of like what lineup he's in, and the defensive scheme that works out for them. And obviously, who knows? It may have to be a situation where it's a zone. Maybe we see more zone defense from the Grizzlies. Who knows? A lot of teams don't really run zone anymore. But I mean, it's something that we might see eventually. Who knows? But another person that I really hope to see have a good year with the Grizzlies is Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He's taking on the task of replacing a franchise, basically at one point a franchise cornerstone. He was the shooter of the group, shooter of the trio that was there. Um, so we really have to bank on Kentavious Caldwell-Pope having a good year, because as much as I like the hype around Cedric Howard, I don't know what to expect from him, because we still haven't seen him touch the court. So that's something that we really have to watch out for with him. Obviously, over time, we're gonna see his game and truly how he fits with the team. But Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, we've seen him on 2 championship teams. He has a great level of expertise. He's a pretty good veteran, pretty good defender as well. Solid shooter. So we really just have to keep that in mind. But I think the Grizzlies don't get far or nearly as far as planned if he doesn't have a good year offensively and defensively. If he doesn't have a good year, then we're talking a different ball game, because now you have to figure out who off the bench is going to replace him. Are you going to move him, and that can flip things around about who's still on the roster during the year. So Kentavious Caldwell-Pope needs to have a good year, and I think with his veteran presence, he can definitely have a good impact. But as far as a good year on the court, the Grizzlies are definitely going to need it, and that's something that should go without saying. But with the circumstances, you need somebody that can replace Desmond Bane, at least in some aspects of the court. So yeah, that's really how I feel about the year. Obviously, we'll keep analyzing and just really look into things, because October is right around the corner. College football just started, so that means the NBA is about to start. So we really just have to really just kind of analyze things and see how the team is going from there. Obviously, closer to the year, we're going to hear more from the players, stuff like that. But as far as this goes, that's a wrap on this episode. That's really all I got today, man. Like I said, Alex Reese, he's a Grizzly. I'll do my research. Really ain't got much about him, but I'll find some out and bring back the scouting report for y'all. But yeah, that's it for this video. If you liked it, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified whenever we upload. And that's for this edition. My name is Melek, and I'll be signing off.